first thought about the Precursors, the changes they did, is just like, this looks awful. You don't really need uses displayed in a stash like this. Where I would want the uses displayed is on the trade site, very obviously over the item, instead of like in a modifier above it. But not in my stash. It doesn't really make sense. Like maybe when it's in here, it makes sense. But not really, because you have this little number down here instead. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense for this to be the case. I feel like you should just add some kind of like regex for people to sort by max uses. Say like if you know MU10 and then plus like I don't know, whatever. It just seems weird to have all the numbers on there. It just doesn't feel right. The other thing about Precursors is I immediately noticed that Quant is not 2 times or 3 times Quant is. In fact, only 3% extra. 3 per tower. So there's 9 of them minus 1. 8 times 7 equals 56 Quant. So it's pretty, like, reasonable to say most people were running about 55, 56 Quant at top end. And you just look at these immediately and you're like, well, I'm missing like 25% Quant. Even on just a 3 tower setup. So I immediately tested if I could use the new Precursors on the old Precursors, right? If I could use my old tower setups with Precursors. And you can. This is a really weird decision. It doesn't make much sense. I should be locked out of using Precursors on these maps, or these maps should have just been reset. It's just, you're doing all these late game nerfs to slow down MFs, but you're slowing down everyone else at the same time. Like, we're all using the same strats, right? So you're slowing down everyone, not just the top, very, very top that you're looking to actually slow down. You're slowing down everyone. And what happens, like, in this kind of scenario, when we have people that have been MFing and doing a bunch of setups, they leave a bunch of just leftover setups everywhere. Like, that before, stuff that was deemed, like, you know, not worthy to run. Like, oh, I probably won't run this 30% quant map. I probably won't run this layout. You know, this stuff that before wasn't even worth running. Suddenly, if it's on your atlas, it's the best thing in the game and nobody else can find it. It's just absolutely insane that you're looking to rein in top end and then you make such a big oversight, like, such as this. Like, it's completely ridiculous, and it's way too late. Like, already it's too late. People have already abused this. That's why Precursors are so expensive. Anybody finds Precursors, they're using them. They're all using them on these layouts. Everyone's getting as much currency as they can. They're all dumping their items, getting as much currency as they can, trying to buy everything and just be done with the game. You know, like, it's because, you know, we've just been nerfed mid-league so hard. And it was supposed to be a nice change. It was supposed to be a nice quality of life change, and they said they were going to do, you know, 2 times, 3 times the amount. And it's just not only quantity of items, because that's specifically a problem when, you know, there's a party and they have a rarity bot. It's like, guys, we're looking at the wrong thing here. How about you just remove Gravebinders from the game? And how about we, like, you know, move some of these Atlas points around? You know? Like, all of these Atlas points that are like increased effective Precursors, increased effective explicit modifiers per explicit modifier. Like, it's necessary to have all of these on your maps to actually get these numbers. And then, like, it just makes the game boring to run because you have to do this generic strat. Like, you can't add any content to it. You can't get creative with it. And it's like, I don't know, if, like, you know, this wheel here, these things here, and this thing here, if they were like, if these things were smaller and in the center, and then these are on the edges, right? So you pass through, like, one thing to get your explicit effects. You pass through one thing to get your quantity and your more explicit effects. You pass through another thing to get your fucking, you know, your increased number of rare monsters. You go through another thing to get through. You increase number of pack size or magic monsters, you know? It's like, when it's like this, we have just this generic stuff to do. No way to actually customize the content that we're doing, and now it's just getting worse mid-league. And it's like, there was so many other changes that could have been made, like I just said, removing grain binders, rearranging the atlas, like, a lot of things could have been done that could have adjusted anything in a healthy way, but instead we've just got this, you know, oh, we've removed packs from open layouts in T15s randomly because it was upsetting some people seeing so monsters on the screen. It's like, okay, dude, alright, I mean, if this stuff was aimed at progression, then why isn't it aimed at progression? Right? Why are we copying it in the late game? We're copying a double whammy nerf, over 20% quant, plus less monsters in our layouts. Like, it's just, why do you have to go at things from multiple angles at the same time? Apex for plundering, if you lowered that, and then you gave us a different tablet, like a unique one, or a more rare one, that could roll better. Right? So, we have one that's, whatever, 4 to 7%. And then we have another one that's 8 to 12%. Right? And now suddenly we have, like, at least 40-something quant to put on our maps. And now we're not, like, 20 quant behind. Now we're like, okay, we're, like, 10, 15 quant less. And then it doesn't feel as bad, and like, because you have the option to actually scale up your content, you have the option to like path to these areas that have the, you know, corruption on them, or the areas you've cleansed, and get these good modifiers and run these maps and, like, you know, on better precursor. As it stands now, like, if you look at precursors right now on trade, you cannot buy ones that are very, very good. Like, the contested ones, the most sought after precursors, people are scamming for them. Like, there's no one actually selling them at a reasonable price. They're all selling you them for like 40, well, not 40 div, but like 20, 40 div, yeah. And everyone else is just listing them at one use, and you can't search the trade by uses. So everyone's just getting scammed. Like, somebody's going to go there and see, like, oh, that's the lowest price one, I'm going to grab it. And then they're going to go to the hideout. They're not going to look at the bloody number in the stash. Like, they're just going to click the highlighted item because they're like, oh, sweet, I got my item. They're not going to think about how precursors were functioning before. Like, everyone on their first time, if they're not wary of this, is just going to run into this scam where they just give someone 3 div for, like, you know, 10 quant on one map. It's crazy. And then the trade site is still scamming people for the wrong amounts. Instead of people scamming you for an ult, they're scamming you for chaos. What's going on, guys? What are these? What's happening? This isn't an improvement here. We're just switching currencies. Like, it's not it. We didn't fix the problem. It's the same problem, but now it's chaos instead of a null. What's going on? Oh, God. Alright. Putting aside the precursors for now, boss being on every map actually felt pretty good to me. Like I said, I much prefer it to having the rares on the screen. But that's probably to do with my build being a pretty good all-rounder and pretty quick at killing bosses, so it really wasn't much of a deal. But I can imagine a lot of people are pretty upset, like people that tended to avoid boss fights because their builds weren't really, you know, tuned around it. I can imagine a lot of people being, yeah, a bit ripped off by these changes, kind of. Not everyone wants a boss in every map. I do want a boss in every map, but that's just my opinion. I got into maps and immediately I liked the visual changes. There's less clutter. I enjoyed there being no rare markers. I was actually a fan of there being rare markers, but when I was experiencing it in PoE 2 again for the first time, not having them, I realized like it's just 10 times better not to have them. You just kind of run around, you explore the map, and you're looking way more at the monsters and what you're doing yourself than you are just the fucking minimap all the time. Unless the area is really annoying to navigate, then you gotta kind of still look at the minimap all the time. But it's much better than it was before, and I'd enjoy that aspect of it. What I didn't like was that I could see that there's less monsters. I could tell there's less monsters. I could immediately feel there's less monsters. I went into, what is a pretty rare layout. What they made these open layouts way more rare to find, and now you go into them, these rare layouts that are meant to be good, and they don't really even have that many monsters. But still, they're still way better than like a crypt. You know what I mean? If this change was meant to bring maps in line, the change being, they reduce the amount of monsters that spawn in open layouts across all tiers, right? If this was supposed to bring maps in line, then why am I getting 2 exalt when I run a fucking crypt map? Like, I'm not kidding you. This is on the old strat with 90% quant. I'm getting 2x and 1 greater x for running an entire map. And then I go into a Rust Bowl, the old strat. I can see there's way less monsters. And I still get, magnitude more currency because the base we're starting off with of it being bad is 2. If you look at crypt, these areas where like people just don't want to run them because they're terrible compared to the open layouts, right? They just have these spots in them where there could be rooms, but they like choose not to. They choose to just be an alley or something instead. And it's just, if these spots were just more open and more monsters could spawn in there, and there's like cool little interactions in there, like saying crypt, there's sarcophagus you can open, and then maybe stuff comes out, maybe not, and then like that's cool, right? Then there's more space for stuff to spawn in, like mechanics, so you don't get these rituals that are in, a tiny little freaking corridor and they're death that gets a certain mod. And you also just get a nicer map overall. Old maps with new precursors versus new maps with the new precursors. When I did the ones that are more juiced, I used pretty mid precursors. I just put in 7% quants. And when I did the ones that are new, quote unquote new, the ones without already existing precursor effects, I put in juice. Okay, 10%, 10%. Every single one, not really, but like, I was only sacrificing a few percent here and there. So these are the results. This is the good stuff, and this is the new stuff. You can't get the good stuff anymore. You're not allowed. You're allowed. So the raw EX count is triple. Was triple. Before I put it all into div. I put it all into div so it's easier to like, envision the difference. And before I put it into div, there wasn't even enough EX to put into div in 20 maps on the new maps. With all really, really good precursors, with 100% rarity on my character, with really good maps that cost a lot of currency. I think I worked it out and it was something like 85 EX per map. So on the good stuff, I've spent not a lot because I already spent on precursors, right? But in the previous patch, it cost me about 13 divine to set up 4 towers, right? In this patch to get 3 precursors to do 10 maps, it cost me 15 to play. And, you know, I had to like tone down my strat on the second run because I literally couldn't afford it. It was eating my currency. So I didn't even make back my return. Not even close. I lost a lot doing this. With the other strat, I didn't invest much. You know, those layouts already exist for MFs. And I made a lot, right? It funded this strat that I'm doing, the losing strat, the new stuff. So this is really, really bad. It's a really bad oversight. And then just highlighting the differences between even, you know, if I'm doing kind of mid layouts that I've left over, then I'm with extra quant, and I'm pretty much doing the old strat still. In terms of efficiency, it's around about the same, I want to say. And then when you just compare the two, it's like, this isn't a small nerf, you know. It's not small at all. Like, you're going to spend just ridiculous amounts of time to find anything rare if you're the average player. And you know, I was running some of the best MF strats in the previous patch with my friend by myself, and we were going positive. And I just didn't know why people were complaining about solo play, because I would make more in solo play than I would with my friend, right? Because we're not trying to abuse party play in any way or fashion. We're not using great binders or stacking a lot of rarity or anything. We're just playing the game together as friends. But I feel like if aggression is like this, then I'm just not going to find anything. There's too many currencies for one map. Even though, like, we've removed regals, okay, from Blaming. We've removed regals. We have alchemy. We can just alchemy now. That's great. We can remove more. I believe in us. Look, this whole prefixes being the good desecrated modifier for maps is causing us to use too many omens. And base maps not being that great is causing us to use too many omens. So what if we just didn't use omens, right? What if the base maps were just a little bit better? What if the desecrated modifiers appeared on prefixes and suffixes, the good ones? You could maybe get a bad one or a good one on a prefix or a suffix, so it didn't matter which one you used. So you don't have to use, you know, the sinistral omens, so you don't have to use the chaotic rarity omens. So now we just get to pick good maps, slam them with a desecrated modifier, juice them up with Delirium, and we're done. How good does that sound? Instead of this insane process that we have now, where it's like we're buying 4 different types of currency, we're stacking them all up, we're getting like a bunch of maps. If you do this like 3 to 5 maps at a time, I feel so bad for you, man. Because you gotta do all that, and then you gotta go to the place, and you're doing like 5 at a time. So the first one out of every 5 is just gonna be that slow ass animation. Oh my god, and 2 travel times with only 5 maps. Like, it's yeah, it needs some love for sure. And I think, you know, just base maps were a little better, and we could easily slam on the desecrated modifiers without having to target a prefix or a suffix, and we just eliminate the need for omens, right? Omens would still be nice if you're looking for something particular, but they're not like an unnecessary thing for juiced mapping. Thank you if you listened up until this point. Yeah. I hope we get some changes in the right direction and, the game feels good to play. I hope when they aim to add quality of life changes in the future, they don't accidentally just destroy everything.